Hi, my name is Isabella Campbell, and I did my project over the mathematician and well-known physicist Stephen Hawking. Family. His full name is Stephen William Hawking. He was born January 8, 1942 in Oxford, United Kingdom. Something interesting about his birthday is that he was born on the 300th anniversary of the death of Galileo. His parents are Frank and Isabel Hawking. Frank was born May 18, 1905, and he died March 4, 1986. Frank was a medical researcher, and his specialty was in tropical or foreign diseases, and he got his degree at Oxford. Stephen's mom was named Isabel. She was born March 3, 1915, and she died April 6th of 2013. His mom was Scottish, and she also went to Oxford in the 1930s. In 1942, World War II was going on, and so they lived in London at the time, but because it was so unsafe and because they were getting bombed, they decided to go to Oxford to give birth to Stephen so that he would be in a safe location. So not only did his parents meet at Oxford, but he was born in Oxford too. They had two more kids after Stephen, named Mary and Philippa, and then they adopted a boy named Edward in 1956. Information is very limited on his sisters and on his brother. The little we do know is that his sister Mary ended up becoming a doctor like her father. Mary was born in 1943, Philippa was born in 1947, and they adopted their last son, Edward, in 1956, but he was born in 1955. Mary and Philippa are still alive, I believe, but Edward died in 2003 due to a car crash. According to close family friends of the Hawkings, they were an eccentric bunch. They would eat dinners at the dinner table without talking because all of the kids would be reading a book. Something else interesting about the family is that they drove an old London taxi cab, and they lived in a 3-story fixer-upper, but they never really got around to fixing it. They housed bees in the basement, and they made fireworks in their greenhouse. Isabel said once that whenever Stephen was a kid, he had a huge fascination with stars, and they would just lay out and look at the sky. His first wife was Jane Wilde. Jane was born March 29th of 1944. She is currently 76 years old. Jane was a young languages undergraduate, and she also went to Oxford. That's where she and Hawking met. They met at a New Year's party in 1963. And they ended up getting married in 1965. They had 3 kids together. Robert, their firstborn, was born in 1967. He is currently a computer expert software for Microsoft, and he lives in Seattle with his family. Lucy, their second child, was born in 1970, and she was a journalist, but now she is an author for children. She's actually written 5 books with her dad. She is vice president of the National Star College, and what they do there is they help people with disabilities. And Oxford is a running theme in their family because she also graduated from Oxford. Their last son, Timothy, was born in 1979. Currently, he works in marketing for tour giants. Because Stephen Hawking had Timothy later on, Timothy did not get the opportunity to really hear his dad's voice because ALS really took over of Stephen Hawking's life. So he had a voice box machine that he had to use to communicate, and Timothy used to program swear words into his dad's voice machine. Hawking ended up leaving Jane for his nurse, Elaine Mason. Because of Stephen Hawking's disease, he had to have nurses and people look after him to help take care of him, and Elaine was one of his nurses. She was married at the time whenever they met, but they fell in love, so he left Jane for Elaine in 1990, and Elaine Mason and Stephen Hawking, they got married in 1995. Elaine Mason was definitely a controversial person in the Hawking home because she put a strain on his relationship with his kids at the time, and they weren't able to see him much or visit with him because he was married to her. And in 2003, nurses suspected that she was abusing him, and whenever police investigated this, Stephen Hawking told them to call it off, and they ended up getting divorced in 2006. After he got divorced, he ended up getting closer with his kids, and that's whenever he wrote the books with Lucy. Unfortunately, Stephen Hawking is no longer with us. He died March 4th of 2018, and he died because of his disease, ALS. His career. He went to school at St. Albans, and at St. Albans, He was in the bottom half of his class. He did not do well in school, he didn't focus, he didn't study. However, he turned his life around after he got accepted into Oxford. He got accepted into Oxford because while he may not have done well in school, he was very bright, and he made computers and tech stuff with his friends whenever he was 17. He went to school at Oxford, and he got his bachelor's there in 1962 in physics. Then he went to Trinity Hall, Cambridge, and he got his PhD there, also in physics, and I believe this was in 1966. He studied for maybe 1 hour a day, but he was such a fast reader and such a fast learner that he quickly became top of his class. After he graduated and got his PhD, he became a research fellow at Gonville and Caius College in Cambridge. And the field he researched was general relativity, and he specialized in black holes. Further in his career, in 1974, the Royal Society elected him as one of the youngest fellows. The Royal Society is a society where very intelligent people come together, and it is the UK's National Academy of Sciences. In 1977, he became a professor at Cambridge, and he taught gravitational physics. In 1979, he was appointed Lucasian's Professorship of Mathematics. And something interesting about that is that was actually Isaac Newton's old job. And then in 2008, he became the visiting chair at Waterloo, Canada, and it was for the Perimeter Institute of Theoretical Physics. His salary: whenever he worked as a research fellow, he earned $47,770 annually. He also received money for promoting an eyeglass store chain in Britain, and he was on television shows and networks, and he made money doing that as well. He made around $2 million. And then while he was a professor at Cambridge, he made $110,000 annually. Stephen Hawking was also an author. He wrote many books. A few are... I actually have a book. Hold on. I found it. This is called A Brief History of Time. I read this in quarantine because I was super bored. I didn't get to finish all of it because it's way up there. He's a very smart guy, and he tries to dumb it down for you, but just kind of whoosh, it went over my head. But it's interesting, and it expanded my mind. So these are the others he wrote. Now, he had many contributions to the science and mathematics world. He did a lot of things for black holes. These are a few other contributions that he made to the science world. He helped advance the study of quantum gravity and cosmology. He also did a lot for black hole thermodynamics, and he came up with an equation. He also developed singularity theorems in general relativity. He contributed into our knowledge of black hole uniqueness, and he also did a huge job in explaining the quantum mechanics of space-time and how that all goes together, and it's just... He did a lot of study with the Euclidean quantum gravity, and he studied a lot, and he contributed a lot into the knowledge and understanding of the wave theory of the universe. And the major contribution that I'm going to be going over is his black hole thermodynamics equation. To get the glasses on, because we're about to go into the thermodynamics of black holes, y'all. Alright. Bear with me. It's a lot. But we're gonna make it simple, okay? Okay. Oh, this is my cat. He says hi. He wants to learn about black hole thermodynamics too. Okay. So black holes are problematic because it's a collision of like quantum theory as well as like the classical theory. So, okay, basically black holes are made from like a collapsing star. It doesn't necessarily have to be a star, but it's a really heavy piece of matter. Okay, I'm gonna draw it for you. They're made up of a singularity and a thing called an event horizon. All right, so the outside is the event horizon, and that's kind of, if you think of like a waterfall, that's kind of what I think, you know? That's where the waterfall would be. And then the singularity, that's where the deepest point is. That's where the collapsed star would be. Right, so the event horizon, singularity, we got that down. Okay. The singularity, that's where all of the mass is centered. And then once you get inside the event horizon, nothing can be fast enough to escape, not even light. Like once you reach that dotted line, you're gone. You're not coming back. Theoretically, you could compute the thermodynamics, the heat, and the entropy of the black hole. And entropies, it's basically the confusion factor. It's the unknown. Okay, black holes are kind of like a vacuum. There's this thing called the Casimir effect, and basically it's where not everything is sucked into a vacuum. So basically there are these things called virtual particles, and there are anti-particles. They're one and the same, they're together, but they're different. Okay. So near the event horizon there are particles and there are anti-particles. And there's a whole bunch of annihilation and creation between the two. Those are our particles. They look like eyeballs. Okay, those are our particles, right? So if they were together, one is going in, but then the other half flings out, and that causes radiation. We can measure radiation because radiation comes off as heat. Whenever they break apart, the antiparticle falls into the black hole while the virtual particle, it flings off, okay? So whenever the antiparticle goes in the black hole, it's anti, so it decreases the mass. So whenever a black hole's mass decreases, it makes the temperature hotter because the more antiparticles, the more particles are being sprung off, the more radiation, the more heat. So we can measure that temperature with Stephen Hawking's equation. This is Stephen Hawking's equation to determine the thermodynamics of black holes. That's what the TBH stands for. H bar stands for Planck's constant divided by 2 pi. The C is the speed of light, and so you would cube that. Then there's 8 pi, that's obviously 8 times 3.14. And then G stands for the gravitational constant. M is the mass of the black hole. And then K is the Stefan Boltzmann constant. What's important to take away from the thermodynamic of black holes is that the mass and the temperature are inversely proportional. So the higher the temperature goes, the mass is going to decrease. And so if the mass increases, the temperature is going to decrease. So it's definitely much more complicated than that. That's the short and sweet Bella version. So thank you for joining me and learning about the thermodynamics of black holes. I hope you enjoyed. His achievements. He achieved a lot in his years. He was an astronomical physicist and mathematician. These are his achievements. He received 13 honorary degrees, and honorary degree is something that a university gives out, and it's basically like a, hey, good job, you did a lot of research in this category. But one huge achievement that he received was Commander of the British Empire in 1982. The CBE was created by George V, King George V, yes. And he made it in World War II, and it was like as a way to acknowledge and reward the people who put a lot into the war effort, but now they use it for people who have done a lot for the United Kingdom. And so Stephen Hawking did a lot. He contributed a lot into the science world. He also received the Companion of Honor in 1989. Yes, okay. And the Companion of Honor was also created by George V, and it was granted to people who made a major contribution to the arts, sciences, government, or like medical field. He also received the Copley Medal, and that was established in 1709, and it's given to people who have exhibited outstanding research in any branch of science. He was also given the U.S. Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2009. The Presidential Medal of Freedom is the highest award or honor that a civilian can receive. The President of the United States is usually the one who presents it to the person, and they received it for helping with America's national security or for helping with world peace. But in Stephen Hawking's case, he was awarded the medal because he's made an exceptional contribution to his own endeavors with physics and understanding the universe. So here's a picture of Obama giving him the medal. I love this picture, it's just so cute. Something interesting about Stephen Hawking was that he had a disease called amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. It is a motor neuron disease, and it's a neuromuscular disease, and it attacks the motor neurons in the lower brain and along the spinal cord, and it eventually paralyzes you. He started developing symptoms his third year at Oxford in his early 20s, and he noticed that he was getting really clumsy and he would just fall randomly. And he kind of brushed it off for a while, but his dad, who was into like tropical diseases and like rare stuff like that, he figured that there was probably something wrong with him. So they finally discovered that it was ALS. Now people with ALS, they usually have 14 months to 5 years to live. It's a fatal disease. 3 people in the UK die of it every day. If he did not have ALS, he probably would not have gotten as far as he's gotten. It impacted his perspective and his viewpoint of the world. He figured that life is short, and so he tried to do as much as he could in the little time he had. Stephen Hawking was a rare case. Normally people die pretty quickly of it. There are very few people who live on. He lived until he was 76. That's not heard of for people who have ALS. The longer Stephen Hawking had ALS, the weaker he got, and he ended up getting pneumonia one year, and he almost died. However, it was Jane Wilde who saved his life. She had him get a tracheostomy, where they had to do like a surgery right here in his neck area, which is why he became mute and he couldn't speak. At Stephen Hawking, he said that he didn't believe in miracles. He said that there was no God, that there was only science. However, Jane Wilde, she told him, she's like, Stephen Hawking, you are a miracle. He was very lucky to have lived that long. So my favorite quote from Stephen Hawking, he had a lot, but my favorite one was, he said, 1, remember to look at the stars and not down at your feet. 2, never give up work. Work gives you meaning and purpose, and life is empty without it. 3, if you are lucky enough to find love, remember it is there and don't throw it away. So what does he mean by that, and how does that apply to my life? Look up at the stars, not down at your feet. Keep dreaming. Seek higher. Don't let yourself be limited. Dream. Have big aspirations. Work gives you meaning and purpose, and life is empty without it. By that, I think he means continue pursuing your passions, continue trying to grow and improve yourself and the world around you. Love. If you are lucky enough to find love, remember it is there and don't throw it away. I think love is something that gives us passion and gives us inspiration to work, which is why he says don't throw it away, because love is what keeps us together, I think. So how does this apply to my life? This quote really stuck to me because sometimes I'm looking at my feet, I'm going with the humdrum of life, you know, but I'm not really dreaming and I'm not really aspiring to do more with my life. And with the work, like, sometimes I feel kind of lazy and I don't want to do stuff, but work is what gets you to the stars. And so I'm going to try to apply that to my life. And if I find love, cool, you know, like, awesome. And if I do find it, I'm going to listen to Stephen Hawking and I'm not going to throw it away. And then this is my works cited page. I have 2.
Good.